G'day guys, I'm As Whitnell, this is As a World Sport, and the Premier League is back with a bang. Week 4 of the Premier League saw some fantastic results and some epic games after the international break. Now, just quickly on the international break, I didn't do a video during it just because I didn't really feel like there was too much to talk about, to be honest with you. I think it was fantastic that all the home nations got fantastic results to kick off their World Cup qualifying campaigns, as well as obviously the Republic of Ireland. With regards to Sam Allardyce's first England game in charge, the reason I didn't really want to do an in-depth video about it is because I didn't really feel too much had changed from Euro 2016 to this game. But then he's hardly had any training sessions with them. So obviously we're not going to really see what Big Sam's England team are going to be like until a couple of months down the line. But I do think it was absolutely fantastic to see Adam Lallana on the England score sheet for the first time. Hopefully this season he's going to add a few more goals to his game, but he's really becoming a vital part of this England team. And at the moment, he's undroppable. So I was very, very happy for him. I thought it was also fantastic to see Mikel Antonio getting called up. Hopefully he will get a couple of games under Sam Allardyce and be able to really push his way into the England team because he started this season off with a bang. The only disappointment from that game, I just think they should have brought on Jamie Vardy, because I think at certain points in the game, it was crying out for that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to really say about the England game. It was a bit boring. And aside from the last minute goal, that's all that really mattered. So hey, England are off to a win. Big Sam's got his first win under the belt. And hopefully, once we have the next game at Wembley, that's when it can really kick on from there. Now that we've got that first win under the belt and the nerves out the way after Euro 2016. But back to the Premier League. And of course, there is only one place we can start, and that is the Manchester Derby. Mourinho versus Guardiola. City v United. And what a star-studded group of players we had. Is it the biggest game in the world? That's one thing that I want you guys to let me know in the comments below. They were saying that it potentially has overtaken El Clasico now. Certainly the richest game in world football. And obviously with the two teams coming from the same city, it makes that rivalry just so much more fierce. So very, very interesting to see, to say the least. But yeah, with regards to the game itself, I mean, Manchester City obviously pipping United 2-1. They just hung in there at the end. Obviously, United in the second half, even though the game was end-to-end, United just couldn't quite get the goal that they craved to obviously bring the game level. I think the game should have been a 2-2 draw when you base the way that the halves went. I think United were denied a penalty and potentially City being sent off, having a man sent off in Claudio Bravo. He did win the ball, but in today's laws, he was off the ground, and that is a red card offence. And he did catch Wayne Rooney. So I think he got very, very lucky there. I mean, from both managers' standpoints, obviously Guardiola did get the better of Mourinho in this case. The first half, I mean, I thought it was going to be a bloodbath at one point in terms of the scoreline. I thought City were going to wipe the floor with United because in the first half, there was such a gulf in difference in the class between them and just in terms of how they were playing. And it is simply because not only did Mourinho get his tactics wrong in terms of who he played, but also City were just on another level, really. I say that. I suppose it is also the fact that I think Mourinho was right in terms of saying that some of his players really did let him down. I wouldn't have said that to the press after the game, though. That's the only thing. I think, in a way, this was one that he could have taken for his players and said, look, I got the tactics wrong. I shouldn't have changed the starting lineup. There's a few things I would have done differently in retrospect and just kind of left it at that. But internally, it's something that Sir Alex Ferguson was always good at. He'd always defend his players, but you knew that behind the scenes, he would have been giving them an absolute bollocking. And I think that one or two United players would have really got that at the weekend. I think it's fantastic to see that Marcus Rashford is going to be starting the next couple of games now for Manchester United following his performance in the second half, because he did change the game. He was so much more direct and it was great to see. And I mean, again, just quickly going back to the international break, I mean, the hat-trick he scored for the under-21s. If you haven't seen it, check it out because this kid is special. And as much as I think it's great that United and England are taking their time to groom him and develop him, I mean, you just can't keep him out of the team when he's playing this well. So at the end of the day, if you're good enough, that's all that matters, and at the moment, he's definitely good enough. So I'm going to be very excited to see how he does now that Mourinho has said he's going to be getting a couple of starts. But the player that really stood out for me in the Manchester Derby, someone who I think is in the top 10 players in the world right now, is Kevin De Bruyne. Absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, was really hyped up for this game anyway because of the way things went for him at Chelsea under Mourinho. he should have had a hat-trick, hit the post twice, scored a fantastic first goal, and just ran the show. He was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best performances I've seen in a big game from a player in a fair old while. He was phenomenal. So, well done to Manchester City. The early season bragging rights. As much as I think the game was absolutely fantastic end-to-end, I wish it had been a few more weeks into the season when we would have seen both managers who would have been able to test their whole squads. Like maybe if it was like the 12th or 15th game into the season, I think it would have been so much bigger than what it is now. Because even though City have won, it's only the fourth game in. And as we know, in the early stages of the season, teams are still trying to figure out where their new signings fit in and so on and so forth. And coming on to the new signings, why Bravo started in this game, why Mkhitaryan started in this game, I do not have a clue. They were their first starts. And I just think for any player, it doesn't matter how good you are, to come into another league, bear in mind the Premier League is the best league in the world and toughest league in the world, and all the professionals say it as well, to be thrown into a game of such magnitude, I think is wrong. You need to put a player into a game where your team has a better chance of winning, and the stakes are a little less high than what they were in this game, because I think it's a real confidence boost and gives them an opportunity to just settle into the Premier League a little bit before being really thrown into a big game like this. Prime example, even Luis Suarez, his first game for Barcelona when they played Real Madrid, he struggled in it because it was a game of such massive magnitude. And since then, he has come into his own. But for a few weeks after that, you could see it had kind of been a dent to his confidence a little bit because he didn't score for Barca. He was settling in, and it took him a little while to really hit his stride at Barcelona, and obviously we know how phenomenal he's been there, but that's just a prime example. The other kind of big results, Liverpool absolutely smashing Leicester at Anfield, newly revamped Anfield as well, looked absolutely fantastic. This is a little bit worrying for Leicester, the fact they're conceding goals so easily. Liverpool are doing what I fully expected Liverpool to do. I didn't expect them to be 3 goals better than Leicester at the weekend. I thought it was going to be a fairly tight game. But, Mane looks absolutely incredible for them. Lana is coming into his own under Klopp, and I think that's a great thing for England as well, as I've already mentioned. Klopp is starting to get the best out of his players. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that up, because they seem to be doing well against the big teams so far this season in Leicester and Arsenal, but then failing against teams like Burnley. So they need to sort out the consistency. But aside from that, they'll be fine. One result that really shocked me at the weekend was the West Ham-Watford game. Now, if you haven't seen Payet's assist, the Rabona assist for the second goal, then that is literally, it's like sex on a football pitch. It's just, from a football fan's perspective, it's orgasmic. It is absolutely beautiful to watch. But it clearly wound the Watford players up. And boy, did they come back into the game because of it. As Troy Deeney said after the game, it really, really got to all the Watford players. They started arguing amongst themselves, and they wanted to prove a point that West Ham were showboating when they shouldn't have been, and they punished them. So yeah, fantastic away result for Watford, and maybe this would be the real kickstart for their season ahead. Chelsea and Swansea on Ford Super Sunday. Wow, what a game. Really thought Chelsea had that in the bag. Costa, again, in all the headlines for both right and wrong reasons, causing controversy over the pitch. 2 fantastic goals, though. You can't deny that the guy has got talent. And it's weird because he doesn't look like your typical kind of footballer, but he pulls off some fantastic goals. And, Chelsea are really seeing the best out of him this season, which is another reason why they're one of my 3 teams that are favourites to win the Premier League, along with the 2 Manchester sides. Again, more controversy with refereeing decisions. Chelsea obviously dropping points. Man City only having the only 100% record left in the Premier League now this season. Do I think they'll hold on to it? No, obviously I do think they're going to draw and lose games throughout the season. But yeah, not the result Chelsea would have been looking for. They would have been really wanting to have capitalised on the fact that Man United would have dropped points. But even though they gained a point, it's not the result they were looking for. But good point for Swansea. We saw Tottenham finally come into their own this season, absolutely smashing Stoke at the Britannia. And this is a worrying start for Stoke. They're rock bottom right now, and Tottenham looked absolutely fantastic. Son clearly has a point to prove because he took his 2 goals fantastically, and he has said that he feels really determined. He even came back from international duty just so that he could train for this game. So he's really making a big point to Mauricio Pochettino that he wants to be a starter for Tottenham and not just a squad player. So it's great to see that Pochettino's got his players psyched up in a way that there is that kind of competition for places in the Tottenham team. And even though they may not have the biggest squad, the fact that their players are psyched up for the games could really be a real benefit for them moving forward this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on now that the Champions League is coming into things this week, how they get on when the Champions League comes into the mix along with the Premier League. But yeah, fantastic result for Spurs. Arsenal clawed their victory against Southampton thanks to a 94th minute penalty from Santi Cazorla. Saints, I mean, you just can't seem to finish the opportunities that you give yourselves. Yes, obviously Tadic scored. Well, I say Tadic scored. It was an own goal from Czech, really. But, Shane Long's had a couple of opportunities this season, and it hasn't been the best start for him in terms of finishing because the chances he's missed have been big ones, and in the end, they've then gone on to concede goals. So Southampton really need to address taking these opportunities when they do make them, because they do make good opportunities. But yeah, another good result for Arsenal. Keeps the pressure off of Wenger, kind of. Although, the 2-1 scoreline and they're just edging it wouldn't have pleased a lot of fans. They would have wanted it to be a bit more comfortable. But Southampton are a tough team. They're going to be battling this season. So, it's a win. And I think that's all Arsenal fans should really focus on. We saw Middlesbrough lose at home to Crystal Palace. And what a result this was for Palace and Alan Pardew, because the pressure was really building for him. I was listening to TalkSport the other week on my way up to Manchester United versus Southampton, and there were Palace fans phoning in saying that they'd had enough of Pardew. So this was a big result for him. It was great to see Wilfried Zaha put in the performance that a lot of people know he can put in, but there's always been that question mark over consistency with him. But I think the biggest positive for Palace is that Christian Benteke still scored, and what a header it was. And if him and Zaha and him and Townsend can build up a real connection, then Palace could be a force to be reckoned with this season and produce some real shocking results, because Benteke, I think, is a very good striker, a very powerful striker, and he might have a bit of a point to prove after Liverpool, the fact that he couldn't make it at a team like that because he wasn't part of Klopp's plan. So this could be the fresh start for Benteke's career that he needs. So exciting for Palace in that extent. We saw Bournemouth beat West Brom 1-0 at home, and it was a fantastic goal for Callum Wilson. Lovely little flick, and it was just great to see him back on the score sheet after all of his injury worries. And I really hope that this season we get to see where he left off last season just before he got injured, because he was banging them in for Bournemouth when that injury struck, and it was a real shame. And especially now that Jack Wilshere's at Bournemouth, it could be interesting to see if Jack is given a bit more freedom to play like a number 10 role and how he could help the likes of Callum get more goals. So, exciting for Bournemouth. Good win for them. We saw Burnley and Hull draw 1-1, which was a result that I predicted, to be honest with you. Kind of standard result. While taking goals. And that's all I really have to say on that game, really. It's just on to the next week and whether or not they can pick up some wins against some of the teams that are around them. But I think those two are going to be having an interesting battle over the season to see who can stay up. So, obviously, the big result from last night, Monday Night Football, was that Sunderland lost at home to Everton. Again, really worrying start for Sunderland. Whether or not they are going to do their whole, we're going to start off really poorly, and then, the last kind of third of the season, we're going to absolutely smash everybody and stay up, is going to be interesting to be seen this season. But one fantastic thing for Everton is that Romelu Lukaku is back. An 11-minute hat-trick, and it is great to see that he's back. He scored more goals than Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo had by the time they've reached 23. And he's 23 now. So that's a good omen. It's just whether or not, if he continues to show this class, whether or not they can hold on to him in the long, long run. But that depends on if they get into Europe, which under Koeman, I think they've got a very good chance of doing this season. So that pretty much sums up all of the results from Week 4 of the Barclays Premier League. What were your kind of key moments? What did you think really stood out over the weekend? Who were your key players over the weekend? What are you making of it now that the transfer window is shut? Who are you excited to be seeing in the Premier League now that the window is shut and your teams can finally settle with their squads? Who do you think is going to rise to the occasion? Who do you think is going to struggle over the coming weeks? Comment below, let me know. I am Azza Whitnell, and of course, I will see you again soon with more videos on wildlife, adventure, and sports.